So, welcome to a conversation with Joshua Donkor, and really looking forward to it. We have so much to get through, and yeah, just a little bit about your origins, really, and sort of what your family heritage is.
Sure. So I'm half English, half Ghanaian. So my mum's British and my dad's Ghanaian. My mum moved over to Ghana in around 1980s
Okay.
to work as a volunteer overseas. And while she was there, she met my dad, and they sort of came together, fell in love, and then around 2 years later, they moved to the UK together. And probably about 7 years after that, I was born. So I grew up with, obviously half a British family, half a Ghanaian family. And would
What's your
grow up
favorite?
with,
What's one of your favorite things about Ghanaian culture?
oh, I think storytelling.
Oh yeah,
Um,
good.
I think that's my dad's a big example of that. He's a man who's full of infinite stories dating back years and years,
Mm.
stories from his parents, from his grandparents. And they all get filtered through in different ways and very long, sometimes very rambling conversations. But yeah, I grew up with that and it's been a real blessing. So
Ghanaian
yeah,
food? Are you a fan of Ghanaian food as well?
yeah,
Or?
yeah. No, I'm a fan of fufu and red and jollof rice and all the rest of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay,
so
Joshua.
can't complain.
Wow. All right, you're teaching me something. I'm Congolese, so I have no
Ah,
affiliation with
okay,
Ghana, but
sure.
there are some
Yeah,
similarities there.
visit.
There's maybe, so what was it like maybe in school as well for you, sort of growing up? Was it quite mixed in your school years or in your
Yeah,
upbringing or
not especially. So I grew up in Bath, which I think is obviously a predominantly white British area. So yeah, I think being sort of mixed race was I think quite different on the whole. So I
yeah.
was in predominantly white schools. But yeah, I think that was kind of mixed in a way because it felt quite special because obviously I was so lucky to have that connection to Ghana, so I could tell people a little bit about that history and that culture. I had that connection, but obviously at the same time, sometimes that can be a little isolating when
Mm.
maybe your peers don't necessarily share those kind of backgrounds. But then was very lucky to also have Ghanaian family living in London. So when we'd go to London, then suddenly that was almost like for me not being able to go back to Ghana when I was a kid. London almost felt like a
Like
mini
Accra.
example of London with
Yeah.
exactly when especially surrounded by my uncle and my aunt and my cousin Louise and my cousin Sandra. So I'd almost get like a balance. Because I think quite often when you're young as well, a lot of people project identity on you to an extent. They're in Ghana, maybe I'll fit in a little bit more. And then I think when I went to Ghana, immediately I remember coming across the term or Bruni Coco. And I
Oh,
didn't know what that meant at the time, but
okay.
that basically means sort of like foreigner or white person.
Yes.
There were a lot of different historical and colonial connotations to that term as well. But obviously that was a very, I think, jarring experience going to Ghana and then suddenly being called white when I'd always grown up
Mm.
in Bath. So that kind of felt very confusing. I think the main thing for me is I've always been really grounded by family.
Yeah.
Like I've had such a strong connection to my mum's side of the family and my dad's side of the family that these things didn't really matter so much to me.
Mm.
I was both. I was from both worlds, and I felt
Yeah.
accepted by my family in both places.
And as part of that journey, it doesn't sound like you had much stigma, I think, growing up within your creative desire to pursue art, because I know in a lot of ethnic minority backgrounds and families,
Definitely.
there's quite a
Yeah,
big stigma, I think, within not choosing one of the STEM or
definitely.
traditional courses.
Absolutely. I think this is something I've had a lot of conversation around because again, I've been so blessed that my parents were very supportive.
Mm.
And I know that's often not the case, and often not the case for a lot of friends that I know. Um, and I think largely from my parents' perspective, I think it was a case of they made so many sacrifices together, getting by, coming to the UK, starting a life together here, raising me, that they wanted to put me in a position where I could do what I wanted to do, where I could pursue my dreams, I guess. So that was just a massive blessing based off the sacrifices that they've made in their life. And I think it's a case of, I think what needs to happen, I think we need to see more examples of successful creators, especially who come from mixed backgrounds or diverse backgrounds, just to show that this is a career path, that this can be done, there is a space for this. Um, because when you see that people are doing it and being successful in this field, I think that makes things a lot easier. You see, okay, my child can go through this pathway and they can make a living from it. They can make a career doing it. So I think that's really important.
As you've been on this journey, what's been like the one moment that you've been so proud of and you've just looked back and thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've actually got here?
Yeah, well, I think it was quite recent. It was the my first sort of museum solo show with the Holborn Museum. Because it was just such an incredible full circle moment. I mean, it was the first place I'd been going into to see artwork when I was a little kid with my parents. And then, I guess what, probably like 20 years later, um, suddenly I had a show in there. I had all of these paintings of my family members through different generations, paintings of my grandma, of my cousin, of my mum, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, suddenly all around in this room together. Um, and that was just an incredible moment, to be in that space where I'd been looking up at these artists and at very different artwork, stories
Yeah.
of from different generations, from different backgrounds, and suddenly there was my family, like our story, all up on the wall, all being shared and being connected with, and to like have that moment as a very young artist, still early career artist, um, felt totally surreal and incredibly special. I mean, I think no matter what happens, that will probably always be maybe the most special exhibition I ever have, I think.
I know there's quite a few artists as well that are in the live, and maybe there are some people who are tuning in that may have questions about how you actually go about to get an exhibition. Like,
The first fundamental thing I think is having the work itself. Um, Often, especially when you approach a gallery, you probably need a body of work that's ready to go. I think it's really important to just focus in on making work that you really believe in, that is thoroughly researched, that is fully developed. Then you're in a position where you have something. Um, and then, yeah, there are different ways of doing it. I mean, I think sometimes you can reach out to galleries. I think it depends on the gallery about whether they'll kind of get back to you or whether they'll be interested in communicating to you. But it's always worth a go. I think you should never not do something because worst case scenario is you don't hear back or you get a no, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, I think the biggest example I give is I probably do hundreds of applications every year, and I might get maybe like 1, 2% of the things. You just got to continually keep
wow.
trying and try not to let rejection get you because even people that you're seeing are doing really well are still getting loads and loads of rejections all the time. We tend to take rejection really personally because the artwork we make is so personal. We put so much into it, but
Yeah.
often it's just a case of it might not be the right fit for the show. The narrative might not quite fit. And also, there were just loads of really, really talented people doing amazing things all the time. So, usually just time and place. I think I had my first experience of judging an art competition and kind of being on the other side of it. And it actually made me feel a hell of a lot better about all of these moments of rejection because at the end of the day, I was looking at artwork and it just happened to be what did I feel that I personally connected with? What
Yeah.
did I understand on the day? Yeah, art is such a subjective thing. Um, and it's time, it's place, it's luck. All of these things have to align.
And then finally, I do want to just ask you about that dreaded question about AI. Okay, so how do you think AI and the creative space for artists can coexist? Do you think it's possible? Do you think that AI will ever take the role of an actual artist at all? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really tricky one. Obviously, I think this is something everyone's constantly having conversations around,
Yeah,
and I'm certainly no expert in this field at all. But I think what I've seen, maybe within my own spheres, is there's been a lot of pushback against AI, which I think is really important. I think
that's good.
there's been almost an emphasis on uh, things that are being made by people, things and commissioning works directly from artists. And I think that's a really important thing. I think it was quite scary when you were seeing sort of trailers or graphics being designed by AI, because
Yeah.
obviously that's just taking jobs away, and often it's not very good. And I think that's at the moment at least an encouraging thing.
Mm.
And I think there will always be a place for people who make work, for people who are making physical things that you can see that a person has put their heart and soul into that. That will always
Yeah.
be appreciated and always be seen. So I think the idea of artists and going extinct, I don't think that will ever happen, and I hope that will never happen. And then at the same time, I think there are ways that people can probably use AI in really interesting ways. I think there are ways people probably can confront the use of AI. I think the main thing is when people are using AI and not being open and honest about it, I think that's really dangerous and
Yeah.
needs to be prohibited. So yeah, I think it's important to find a balance. Maybe it's a new technology and people will find interesting ways of using it. Um, but yeah, but being aware and being transparent about it, I think that's really important. But I think there will always be a place for real physical artwork, I think forever. And then to be honest, there were lots of ups and downs day to day, even now. I think a big thing I have quite often is the instability of work. Sometimes you might have loads of people wanting to commission you, wanting paintings, wanting to buy artwork, and then sometimes you'll have, absolutely nothing, and you'll be really, really struggling to find work, or how are you going to keep this going? So I think that can be a real challenge, and you've got to be really strong at times like that. And sometimes even people might come in with an offer for artwork that's massively under, the real valuation of your work. And then you've got to make a decision. Do I take this, or do I hold out and hope that in the future I'm going to get a better offer for this? So there are lots of kind of struggles all the time, and even the struggle of, am I going to have to stop making for now, and find some kind of like stable income for a bit. Um, so yeah, you're kind of always in this flux, I think. But so far, what's kind of got me through is, I think, kind of quite a, I guess, quite a strong mentality to keep making, to keep working, to keep almost gambling a little bit on yourself. I've been really fortunate. My parents have been incredible, and when at times when I'm really struggling, they'll help me as best they can. So yeah, you kind of constantly have these ups and downs, and I think you just
Yeah.
got to keep going, keep making the work you believe in, and hopefully the things will pan out. But yeah,
Amazing.
it's definitely it's not an easy career path.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you all for your lovely
Yeah,
questions. Do
thanks.
you have anything coming up? Anything you'd like to plug or let us know about?
Yeah, I've got a few things on at the moment actually. So I've got a show I'm really proud of with an amazing artist called Layla Harris called Familial Traces up in Kendal with Abbott Hall. So it's a joint show, all about our different perspectives and our connection to our family, known and imagined. And I think it's a really beautiful show. So it's yeah, worth a look if you're around Lake District. I've got another show on at the moment with the National Library of Wales, Portraits of Power, um, with an absolutely amazing range of artists. So I think that's really worth seeing if you're in Aberystwyth. And in London, I've got there's a group show opening with the Contemporary Society of British Portrait Painters, bit of a mouthful, with some really amazing, some of the best portrait painters working in the UK. So that's opening in Brixton, in a couple of weeks, start of June. So yeah, that might be worth looking out for. It's very
Well,
nice.
thank you
Yeah.
again for the time. Thank you all and take care.